the tires on the ICM Cabriolet. So let me talk a little bit about that, as I've noticed a couple of things. Number one, when I put the rear tires on, I've noticed that one side is a little further inset than the other side. Now, I don't think it's anything I did wrong, as I have everything mounted right according to its mounting points. So it may just be something that's inherent to this model. So I already glued these tires on it. These tires do not roll. They're meant to be glued to the chassis. I have to see if I can remove this one and maybe put a small spacer in there just to bring it out just a hair, depending on how it looks. I have to see when it's all fully assembled and standing on all fours. Now we can take a look around the chassis. Here we have quite a bit of residue from our paint and polish work. Gonna have to clean all that up. But what I wanted to talk about was the mounting of the front tires. Now, as I said, these tires don't roll, but they do have an unusual mounting system where if we look at this one, it's already mounted. You can see the control arm as it goes toward the wheel itself, and it actually pegs into a hole on the wheel apart from the center pin where you mount the wheel right to the front suspension. Now let me show you this one here, the one that's not mounted yet. You can see that the wheels, which is very unusual on a model kit, have two separate mounting positions. If I can get the camera to focus. There we go. Let's get a pointer here. Let's get something pointy to do our pointing. We have this arm here, which is a control arm of some kind, with this pin, and then we have the central wheel mounting pin here. Now both of those have to go attached to the wheel, which if you look here, you can see the center mounting hole for the wheel. You know, normal, nothing wrong there. And then you see the second hole here, which is where that control arm will mount to the wheel. And we'll go there and there. Now, I've never seen another wheel mount like this. But one thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use a quick setting glue unless you want to stand there holding apart for a while, as you're going to have to press in because the control arm will be pushing out on the wheel like so. So as you mount it, you're going to have to, let me see if I can show you this with one hand here. You're going to have to move it, and you're going to have to, it's going to flex that arm in, as you can see that, as you're pushing the wheel in. So that arm is going to be pushing out against the wheel as you're gluing it in place. So you're going to have to do what I did, which was sit here as the super glue cured with your hand on that on the tire, pressing in on the suspension. I use a little accelerator on there to speed the curing time, but you're going to have to hold it until it locks in place. So I'm going to go ahead and install that now, and then we'll be back with the wheel installed in the car. Okay, she's starting to look like a car now. She's got her shoes on, sitting nice and straight. Really was an interesting procedure for installing the wheels and tires, but it does actually give you a really nice presentation. The stance is perfect. All four on the ground, so the issue I had with the slightly warped chassis is non-existent. The rocker panels are on, which in and of themselves were a bit of a nightmare to put on, as there's no real way to connect them to the body. I'm not even sure if I think one may be hanging a little lower than the other. So we're going to say this is a well-used car, and somebody stepped on there a little bit harder than they should have. But they're on there hard as a rock now, as there are no real mounting tabs to install them. So what I did was I put a little bit of super glue on the leading edge of the rocker panel there, where it goes against the body, and then I filled the cavity that was left underneath with the super glue. So it creates a super rigid bond to the body. Otherwise, there was no way they were staying on. I got the angle of this one off just a little bit, but I'm going to have to live with that, as I can't pull them off now. But seeing as how only you can see one side of it at a time, unless you look at it from up here, in which case you can't even see the rocker panels. I think I can live with the fact that one's just a little bit off. But they were very frustrating to put on, kind of like the mirrors in some models that I can think of right now. But very happy so far. And we're moving along with the build. But she's got her shoes on. Okay, guys, we're right down to the wire now. So that means we're going to get a lot of extreme close-ups without seeing the entire car, because I don't want to give it away just yet. But I did want to point out a few details that we could talk about really quick here. The first thing is the signal lights. These are interesting little clear parts. Let's see if we can get there we go. Which glue right to the fenders. Now what I did was I took a look at the box art, then I looked up a couple of cars. There is a chrome strip right in the middle of the light, which I used bare metal foil to replicate. Then I painted the back of the light with a little bit of flat white, and then just glued it right to the fender. Now you have to know which is the right and the left side light, because there is a right and a left, as is noted by the notches on the back of the lights themselves and how they fit into the fenders. So you got to make sure you get that right so that you don't mix them up. It doesn't really say stated in the instructions, so just take a really close look when you're putting that together. As far as the headlights go, the clear lenses go on without a snap, without any issues. They just fit right onto the headlight buckets without any issues whatsoever. I used Bob Smith Super Gold Plus, as it dries perfectly clear. Now the front bumper, 2 pegs that go right into the front end there. It's nothing really to talk about there. It's a very simple assembly. And I see here I'm going to have to go over a little bit of the grille to deepen in the black lines there for the shadowing, because I had to lost some of that when I had to polish out this front end again. Now another thing I want to talk about is this front end. Aligning it perfectly is a little bit of a chore, as I looked at the real car and the lines between the fender and the front fascia are there, so I didn't want to blend that together or fill that in, because it's the way it is on the real car. But it's a little bit of a bear getting everything to line up, so you got to be careful there. Now we're going to talk about the turn signals. Now I made a big mistake when I painted these, as the turn signals are supposed to be orange. I painted them red, so we're just going to say that's a very dark orange. Now when they go in, there are no pegs and no real mounting points other than the base of the turn signal assembly that glues right to the space between the chrome strips on the front end of the car. So you're going to be really careful, or what you can do is drill a small hole and create a peg of your own in order to mount it. I was going to do that here, but I did manage to get them on without breaking too much of a sweat. Now whether it turns right or left depends on what side you want to put this particular part on, as it comes, as they will fit on either side of the car. but you get one with the turn signal deployed and one without the turn signal deployed. So which way you're turning depends on what side you put the turn signal on. Pretty cool little detail they put in there, which just looks kind of neat. Now the rear bumper was a little bit of a chore to put on, as the rear bumper goes attached to these two chrome hooks that were installed onto the chassis way back when on the build. Didn't know what they really were up until I got to this point. I found out that they are the actual mounting points for the rear bumper. Now, they did line up very well with the bumper, as I didn't have to make any adjustments to it. Basically just put a couple of drops of glue on the bumper itself and drop them right on, center the bumper and drop it right on the two hooks, and it aligned perfectly. And there we have the rear with all of its body jewelry. Okay guys, that's gonna be the last. Oh wait, one more thing we have to talk about. When you're installing the windows, you have to make sure that they sit flush against each other on the top, as that will denote the doors, and they have to be aligned perfectly to give it a realistic appearance. There and there, as you may find that one may want to flop inward, in or out, and not seat fully against each other. So you're gonna have to apply a little bit of glue on the base, hold them together for a bit just to make sure that they stay together and don't flop around on you. Okay, that's gonna be it for the last little bit of building tips on this kit. The next video is going to be our big reveal, as I'm finally done with this thing, and I can't wait to show you guys the final product. Alright, I will see you on the next one.